Dae-jin watched Serafina's face turn purple as Rashid strangled her in his penthouse, and something inside the mafia boss shattered. Not from rage, but from the terrifying realization that he'd burned Chicago to ash before letting anyone take her from him. His fists destroyed Rashid's face until Serafina begged him to stop, but the damage was done. His organization had just witnessed their boss lose control over a woman, and in their world, that kind of weakness gets you replaced or killed. As he held her trembling body and whispered promises in Korean, neither of them knew that his family was already making calls to ensure the distraction disappeared permanently. The crystal chandelier sparkled above Serafina's head as she scrubbed the marble floor of the Lotus Grand Hotel in Chicago. Her arms ached from 3 hours of cleaning, but she couldn't stop. If she stopped, her boss, Mr. Kim, would fire her, and she needed this job desperately. The bandage on her left cheek felt tight and uncomfortable, but at least it covered the ugly purple bruise underneath. She heard expensive shoes clicking against the floor behind her. Serafina's heart jumped. She knew those footsteps. Everyone in the hotel knew those footsteps. Dae-jin Park owned this hotel and 5 others across Chicago. He also owned things the police would love to know about, things that made people whisper and look away when he walked past. "Stand up," his deep voice commanded. Serafina's hands shook as she dropped her scrub brush into the bucket. She slowly stood and kept her eyes on the floor. Rich men like him never looked at cleaning ladies like her. She was practically invisible, which was exactly how she liked it. "Look at me." Her breath caught in her throat. Ethiopian women were taught to be respectful and quiet around powerful men. Looking him in the eyes felt dangerous and wrong, but his voice left no room for argument. Serafina lifted her chin and met his gaze. Dae-jin's dark eyes narrowed. He was younger than she expected, maybe 30 years old, with sharp cheekbones and black hair styled perfectly. His gray suit probably cost more than she made in 6 months, but it was his eyes that made her stomach flip. They were cold and calculating like a wolf watching prey. "What happened to your face?" He stepped closer. "Nothing, sir. I just fell." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. His jaw muscle twitched. "You fell?" "Yes, sir. I am very clumsy." Dae-jin moved so fast she gasped. His hand reached out and she flinched, expecting pain. But his fingers were gentle as they touched the edge of her bandage. His thumb traced the tape holding it in place. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. Nobody had touched her gently in so long. "Did you fall, or did someone push you?" His voice was quiet, but deadly serious. Tears burned behind Serafina's eyes. This man was a criminal. He hurt people for a living. Why did he care about one cleaning lady? "Sir, I really must get back to work." "Answer my question." His hand moved to her chin, tilting her face so she couldn't look away. "Who did this to you?" The gentleness in his touch broke something inside her. "My ex-boyfriend, Rashid. He came to my apartment last night because I wouldn't take him back. He got angry." Dae-jin's eyes went completely black. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop 10 degrees. His thumb brushed across her bottom lip, making her breath hitch. "Does he do this often?" "He used to. That's why I left him 3 months ago. Last night was the first time he found me since I moved. Give me your address." It wasn't a request. "Sir, please don't get involved. Rashid is dangerous and crazy when he's jealous. I don't want trouble." A cold smile touched Dae-jin's lips. "Trouble is what I do best. Your address." Something in his face told her arguing was pointless. Serafina whispered her address, and he typed it into his phone. Then he did something that shocked her completely. He pulled out his wallet and handed her $500 bills. "Go home. Take the rest of the week off. Keep your doors locked." "I can't accept this money, sir. I didn't earn it." His hand closed around hers, pressing the bills into her palm. His skin was warm and his grip was firm. "You earned it by being brave enough to tell me the truth. Go home, Serafina." She blinked. "How do you know my name?" "I know everything about everyone who works for me." He released her hand and stepped back. Go. Serafina grabbed her cleaning supplies and practically ran to the service elevator. Her heart pounded like drums in her chest. What just happened? Why did the most dangerous man in Chicago care about her bruised face? And why did her skin still tingle where he touched her? That night, Serafina sat in her tiny studio apartment eating cheap noodles for dinner. She lived in a rough neighborhood because it was all she could afford. The walls were thin, the heat barely worked, and sirens wailed outside every night. But it was hers, and she was safe from Rashid. Someone knocked on her door at 8 o'clock. Serafina froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. Nobody visited her. She had no friends in America yet. Her family was back in Ethiopia. Fear crawled up her spine. What if Rashid came back? Serafina, open the door. It's Daejin Park. Her fork clattered onto the table. The mafia boss was at her apartment. This had to be a dream or a nightmare. She walked to the door on shaky legs and looked through the peephole. Sure enough, Daejin stood in the hallway holding plastic bags. He wore jeans and a black sweater instead of his expensive suit. He looked younger and somehow more dangerous. She opened the door a crack. "Mr. Park, what are you doing here?" "I brought food and medical supplies." He held up the bags. "Let me in." "This isn't appropriate, sir. You're my boss. I'm also the man who's going to make sure your face heals properly." He pushed the door open gently and walked inside. Serafina's cheeks burned with embarrassment. Her apartment was so small and shabby. One room served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. Her mattress sat on the floor in the corner. Boxes she still hadn't unpacked lined the walls. This powerful man lived in penthouses and mansions, and now he stood in her poverty. But Daejin didn't seem to notice or care. He set the bags on her small table and started unpacking. Expensive ointments, clean bandages, painkillers, and containers of hot food that smelled like heaven. "Sit," he ordered, pointing at her only chair. "Mr. Park, you really don't need to do this." "I know I don't need to. I want to." He pulled out the first aid supplies. "Now sit down before I make you." Something in his tone made her obey. Serafina sat while he washed his hands in her tiny sink. Then he knelt in front of her. Actually knelt. A mafia boss on his knees in front of a poor cleaning lady. "This might hurt," he warned softly. His fingers carefully peeled away her old bandage. Serafina winced as it pulled at her skin. The bruise underneath was dark purple and swollen. Rashid's ring had cut her cheek when he hit her. Daejin's breathing changed. She watched his hands curl into fists for just a second before he forced them to relax. "Did he hit you anywhere else?" "My ribs. But they're not broken, just bruised." "Show me." "Absolutely not." Serafina's eyes went wide. "I need to make sure you don't have internal bleeding." His voice was calm but firm. "Lift your shirt, or I'm taking you to my personal doctor right now." Her face felt like it was on fire, but she slowly lifted the edge of her shirt. Purple and yellow bruises covered her left side where Rashid had kicked her. Daejin's finger traced the bruises so gently she barely felt it. But she felt everything else. The heat of his hand, the intensity of his gaze, the way her body responded to his touch like it had a mind of its own. "I'm going to kill him," Daejin said quietly. "Please don't. I just want him to leave me alone. He will. I promise you that." He pulled her shirt back down and picked up the ointment. "This will help with healing." For the next 10 minutes, he cleaned and treated her face with steady, gentle hands. Serafina couldn't stop staring at him. Up close, she noticed things she'd missed before. A small scar above his right eyebrow, long eyelashes that any woman would envy, lips that looked soft despite the hard expression he always wore. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Daejin's hands paused. He looked up from applying the new bandage, and their faces were only inches apart. "I don't know. I saw your face this morning, and something inside me caught fire. The idea of someone hurting you made me want to burn the entire city down. You don't even know me." "I know enough." His thumb brushed across her uninjured cheek. I know you work 2 jobs to send money home to your family in Ethiopia. I know you're studying English at night school. I know you're the hardest worker in my hotel. I know you're brave and beautiful, and you deserve better than living in fear. Serafina's breath caught. How do you know all that? I told you, I know everything. His hand slid from her cheek to the back of her neck. And I'm going to make sure Rashid never comes near you again. How? Instead of answering, Dae-jin leaned forward and pressed his lips to her forehead. It was barely a kiss, just a soft touch, but it set every nerve in her body on fire. Her hands gripped the edge of her chair to keep from reaching for him. Eat the food I brought, take the painkillers, get some sleep. He stood up and walked to the door. I'll see you soon, Serafina. When? He turned back with a small smile that made him look almost friendly. Sooner than you think. After he left, Serafina sat frozen in her chair for 5 whole minutes. Her face tingled where he'd touched her. Her heart raced like she'd been running. Something huge and terrifying and exciting had just started, and she had no idea where it would lead. She opened the food containers and gasped. Korean barbecue, kimchi, rice, soup, and side dishes. Enough food for 3 days. The smell made her mouth water. As she ate the best meal she'd had in months, Serafina couldn't stop thinking about Dae-jin's hands on her face, his promise, his lips on her forehead. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sleep well, you're safe now. Somehow, she believed him. 3 days later, Serafina returned to work with a much smaller bandage on her face. The bruise had faded to yellow-green thanks to Dae-jin's expensive ointment. She expected things to go back to normal. She would clean rooms, he would ignore her, and life would continue. She was completely wrong. Mr. Kim called her into his office 10 minutes after her shift started. The manager looked nervous and sweaty. Miss Serafina, Mr. Park has requested that you report to his penthouse suite immediately. Her stomach dropped. Why? I don't ask Mr. Park questions, and neither should you. Top floor. The elevator code is 9427. Don't keep him waiting. Serafina's hands shook as she rode the elevator to the top floor. The doors opened directly into a massive penthouse that took up the entire level. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Chicago skyline. White leather furniture, expensive art on the walls, a kitchen bigger than her whole apartment. Everything screamed wealth and power. Dae-jin stood by the windows wearing black pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He turned when he heard the elevator. Good. You're here. Mr. Kim said you wanted to see me, sir. Stop calling me sir. My name is Dae-jin. He walked toward her with slow, deliberate steps. How's your face? Much better. Thank you for the medicine. And your ribs? Still sore, but healing. He stopped right in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and masculine that made her dizzy. I have a proposition for you. A proposition? Her voice came out squeaky. I want you to move in here, with me. Serafina's jaw dropped. Excuse me? Your apartment isn't safe. Rashid knows where you live. Here, I have security on every floor, cameras everywhere. No one gets in without my permission. His hand reached out and tucked a curl behind her ear. You'll be safe. Mr. Park. Dae-jin. I can't just move in with you. People will talk. They'll think I'm your... My what? His eyes glinted with amusement. Heat flooded her cheeks. Your girlfriend. Or worse. Let them think whatever they want. I don't care about gossip. His finger traced down her jaw. I care about keeping you safe. This is crazy. You barely know me. I barely know you. Then we'll get to know each other. He stepped even closer, and she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Stay, Serafina, please. That word, please, from a man who probably never begged for anything in his life, broke down her resistance. For how long? As long as you want. What about my job? You'll keep it if you want, or I can find you a better position, something that doesn't destroy your back and knees. Serafina's mind raced. This was insane. Moving in with her boss, a criminal, a man she barely knew. But her apartment really wasn't safe, and something about Dae-jin made her feel protected in a way she'd never felt before. "Okay," she whispered, "but I sleep in a guest room. Separate beds." Something hot and dangerous flashed in his eyes. For now. 2 hours later, Serafina's few belongings were moved into a guest bedroom that was bigger than her entire old apartment. King-size bed with silk sheets, private bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in, a closet that echoed when she opened it because she owned so few clothes. Dae-jin gave her a credit card. "Buy whatever you need, clothes, shoes, anything." "I can't accept this." "You can and you will. Consider it part of your new job." "What new job?" He smiled. "Keeping me company." For the first week, they danced around each other like polite strangers. Dae-jin left early for his businesses and came home late. Serafina cooked Ethiopian food that he devoured with genuine appreciation. They ate dinner together and talked about safe topics like books and music and childhood memories. But the air between them grew thicker and hotter with every passing day. Serafina caught him staring at her when he thought she wasn't looking. His hand would brush hers when he passed her something. He found excuses to touch her shoulder, her back, her hair. And she was just as guilty. She noticed everything about him. The way he ran his fingers through his hair when he was stressed. How his shoulders looked in his expensive suits. The sound of his voice when he spoke Korean on the phone. She dreamed about him every night and woke up tangled in sheets, breathing hard. Everything exploded on Friday night. Serafina woke up at midnight to the sound of glass breaking in the living room. She pulled on a robe and crept down the hallway. Dae-jin stood by his bar, pouring whiskey into a glass. Broken glass sparkled on the floor near his feet. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He spun around, and she gasped. Blood dripped from his knuckles. His shirt was torn. A cut above his eye leaked red down his cheek. "Go back to bed, Serafina. You're hurt. Let me help you." "I said go to bed." His voice was harsh, almost angry. But Serafina wasn't afraid of him. She walked across the broken glass in her bare feet, making him curse. "You're going to cut yourself. Then stop me from being stupid." She grabbed the whiskey glass from his hand and set it down. "Sit." For once, he obeyed. She got the first aid kit from the bathroom and knelt between his legs. His bloody knuckles told her he'd been in a fight. The cut on his face wasn't deep, but needed cleaning. "What happened?" she asked as she dabbed at his forehead. "Business. Nothing you need to worry about." "Did someone try to hurt you?" "They tried. They failed." His hands gripped her waist, pulling her closer between his thighs. "I'm fine, Serafina." "You're bleeding." "I've bled before. I'll bleed again." His voice was tired and rough. "This is my life. Violence, blood, danger. You should be terrified of me." She met his eyes as she pressed a bandage to his forehead. "I'm not." "Why not?" "Because I see who you really are. Under all the scary mafia boss stuff, you're just a man who's tired and lonely." Something broke in his expression. His hands tightened on her waist. "You're wrong. I'm not a good man, Serafina. I've done terrible things. I'll do more terrible things. You should run from me as fast as you can." "I don't want to run." The words came out before she could stop them. "What do you want?" His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might explode. I want you." Dae-jin's control snapped. He pulled her onto his lap and crushed his mouth against hers. The kiss was hot and desperate and everything she'd been dreaming about. His hands tangled in her hair while hers gripped his shoulders. She could taste whiskey on his tongue when he deepened the kiss. "Tell me to stop," he growled against her lips. "Tell me this is wrong and I'll stop." "Don't stop. Please don't stop." He stood up with her in his arms and carried her to his bedroom. The room was dark except for the city lights streaming through the windows. He laid her on his bed like she was precious and breakable. "Are you sure?" His hand cupped her face. "Once we do this, everything changes. I want everything to change." They made love slowly, learning each other's bodies in the darkness. Dae-jin was gentle despite his dangerous reputation, treating her like she was made of glass. Serafina had never felt anything so intense. Every touch set her on fire. Every kiss made her head spin. When it was over, they lay tangled together, breathing hard. "I can't let you go now," Dae-jin whispered into her hair. "You're mine, Serafina. Say you're mine." "I'm yours," she promised. Neither of them saw the security camera footage being watched by someone who would make them both regret this night. For 3 weeks, Serafina and Dae-jin lived in their own perfect bubble. They made love every night and most mornings. He taught her Korean words while she showed him how to cook Ethiopian dishes. They watched the sun rise from his bed and talked about everything and nothing. Serafina learned that Dae-jin's father forced him into the mafia life when he was only 16. He never wanted this world of violence and crime, but family duty demanded it. He dreamed of opening a legal restaurant business someday, something clean and honest. Dae-jin learned that Serafina's parents died when she was 20, leaving her to raise her 3 younger sisters alone. She worked 3 jobs in Ethiopia but couldn't make enough money. Coming to America was her only hope for a better life. She sent most of her money home so her sisters could finish school. They fell in love between the sheets and over breakfast and during late-night conversations. But they kept it secret from everyone. Dae-jin's people couldn't know their boss was distracted by a woman. Serafina's co-workers couldn't know she was sleeping with the owner, so they pretended to be employer and employee in public while being lovers in private. But secrets never stay hidden forever. Bae Min Seok was Dae-jin's second-in-command and oldest friend. They grew up together in Seoul before moving to Chicago. Bae noticed immediately that his boss was different, smiling more, distracted during meetings, coming home early instead of working until midnight. Bae reviewed the security footage and found his answer. He watched Dae-jin and Serafina together in the penthouse, kissing, laughing, making love on the couch. Bae's jaw tightened with worry. This woman was making his boss weak and careless. Weakness got people killed in their world. Meanwhile, Rashid had not forgotten about Serafina. He watched the Lotus Grand Hotel every day until he saw her leaving in the evening. But instead of going to her old apartment, she got into a black car that drove to the fanciest hotel in Chicago. The next night, same thing. The third night, Rashid followed. He watched Serafina use a code to access the penthouse elevator. Rage burned in his chest. She left him for another man, a rich man. She thought she was too good for him now. Rashid started planning his revenge. On a cold Tuesday evening, Dae-jin had to attend a meeting with other Korean gang leaders across town. He kissed Serafina goodbye and made her promise to keep the doors locked. "I'll be back in 3 hours, 4 at most." He kissed her again. "Order dinner, watch a movie. I'll bring dessert." "Be careful," she whispered against his lips. "Always." After he left, Serafina took a long bath and put on comfortable clothes. She ordered Ethiopian food from her favorite restaurant and settled on the couch with a book. The penthouse felt too big and empty without Dae-jin's presence. She didn't hear the service elevator ding softly in the hallway. She didn't see the man in a maintenance uniform slip through the door using a stolen key card. She didn't know she was in danger until rough hands grabbed her from behind. Serafina screamed as Rashid threw her to the floor. His eyes were crazy and bloodshot. He smelled like alcohol and sweat. "You think you're better than me now?" he yelled. "Living in a fancy penthouse with your rich boyfriend?" "Rashid, get out. You're not supposed to be here." "I'm not supposed to be here? You're not supposed to be a whore." He kicked her in the stomach, making her cry out in pain. "I loved you. I gave you everything. And you left me for this?" Serafina crawled backward, trying to reach her phone on the coffee table. "Please leave. You're going to get in serious trouble." "I don't care." He grabbed her ankle and dragged her back. "You're coming with me. We're leaving Chicago tonight. I'm not going anywhere with you." Rashid's hand wrapped around her throat. "Yes, you are. Even if I have to drag you unconscious." Black spots danced in Serafina's vision as his grip tightened. She couldn't breathe. This was how she would die. strangled by her crazy ex-boyfriend in a penthouse that was supposed to keep her safe. Then suddenly the pressure vanished. Serafina gasped and coughed, sucking in precious air. Through watery eyes, she saw Dae-jin slam Rashid against the wall so hard the plaster cracked. "You touched her!" Dae-jin's voice was completely calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. "You put your hands on what's mine." "She was mine first." Rashid tried to fight back, but he was no match for Dae-jin's cold fury. Dae-jin's fist connected with Rashid's face once, twice, 3 times. Blood sprayed across the white walls. Rashid screamed and begged, but Dae-jin didn't stop. He was going to kill him. "Dae-jin, stop!" Serafina's voice was hoarse and broken. "Please stop! You'll kill him!" "That's the plan." Another punch. "Please!" She stumbled to her feet and grabbed his arm. "I'm okay. I'm safe. Please don't do this. Don't become a murderer because of me." Dae-jin's arm froze mid-swing. He looked at Serafina's face, saw the tears and the terror, and something in him shifted. He dropped Rashid, who collapsed unconscious on the floor. "Bae, get in here," Dae-jin shouted. 2 men appeared from the elevator within seconds. They must have been waiting outside. Bae looked at the scene with no emotion on his face. "Take this garbage out," Dae-jin ordered. "Make sure he understands that if he ever comes near her again, I'll do much worse than break his face. Then put him on a plane to anywhere that's not here." "Yes, boss." Bae and the other man dragged Rashid's bleeding body toward the elevator. As soon as they were alone, Dae-jin rushed to Serafina. His hands ran over her body, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did he hurt you?" "My throat, my stomach, but I'm okay." She threw her arms around his neck and burst into tears. "I was so scared. I thought he was going to kill me." "Never. I will never let anyone hurt you again. Never." He picked her up and carried her to the couch. His hands shook as he examined the red marks on her throat. "I should have killed him. I should have ripped his head off." "I'm glad you didn't. I don't want you to have that on your conscience because of me." Dae-jin pulled her onto his lap and held her so tight she could barely breathe. But she didn't complain. She needed this. Needed to feel safe in his arms. Needed to know that he would always protect her. "I love you," he whispered in Korean against her hair. "Sarange, Serafina, I love you so much it terrifies me." She pulled back to look at his face. "Say it in English." "I love you." His hands cupped her face. "I love you, I love you, I love you." "I love you too." She kissed him softly, tasting salt from both their tears. "I love you, Dae-jin." They made love right there on the couch, desperate and intense, proving to each other that they were alive and together and safe. Afterward, they moved to the bedroom and made love again, slowly this time, touching every inch of each other's bodies. As the sun rose over Chicago, Serafina lay in Dae-jin's arms, feeling completely content. She didn't know that across the city, Bae was making a phone call to Dae-jin's family in Boston. She didn't know that a storm was coming that would test their love in ways she couldn't imagine. All she knew was that this man loved her and she loved him, and somehow they would figure out the rest. Dae-jin's phone rang at 7 in the morning, waking both of them from sleep. He groaned and reached for it, squinting at the screen. His entire body went stiff when he saw the name. "Who is it?" Serafina mumbled sleepily. "My mother." He sat up and ran a hand through his messy hair. "I haven't talked to her in 6 months. Maybe you should answer it." "Nothing good ever comes from talking to my mother." But he answered anyway. "Yama." Serafina couldn't understand the rapid Korean coming from the phone, but she understood Dae-jin's increasingly tense body language. His jaw clenched. His free hand curled into a fist. His responses were short and sharp. Finally, he said something that sounded like goodbye and hung up. He sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. "What's wrong?" Serafina touched his back gently. "My family is coming to Chicago tomorrow. My mother, father, and older brother." He turned to look at her with troubled eyes. "They know about you, about us." Her stomach dropped. "How?" "Bae told them." He thinks you're a distraction that's making me weak. Dae-jin's voice was bitter. My mother is furious. She's been planning my marriage to a nice Korean girl from a good family for years. Finding out I'm living with an African woman is her worst nightmare. The words hurt, even though Serafina knew they were true. What are you going to do? Tell them to stay in Boston where they belong. He pulled her into his arms. You're the woman I choose, the only woman I want. They'll have to accept that. What if they don't? Then they can be angry. I don't care. But Serafina could tell he did care, even if he pretended otherwise. Family was everything in Korean culture. Going against his parents' wishes was like cutting off his own arm. The next day, Dae-jin's family arrived at the penthouse like a hurricane of judgment and disappointment. His mother, Mrs. Park, was a thin woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expensive handbag. His father was silent and stern. His older brother Hyun-woo looked like an older, colder version of Dae-jin. Serafina wore her nicest dress and tried to smile as Dae-jin introduced her. Mrs. Park looked her up and down like she was examining a bug. This is her, Mrs. Park said in English with a heavy accent. This is the woman who has bewitched my son. Mother, be respectful, Dae-jin warned. Respectful? She is a cleaning lady. An immigrant with no family, no money, no education. I have an education, Serafina said quietly. I have a university degree from Ethiopia, and I have a family, 3 sisters who I support. Mrs. Park ignored her completely and turned to Dae-jin. I have brought someone for you to meet. Sun-hee Kim. Her father owns half of Boston's shipping industry. She is beautiful, educated Korean, and perfect for you. I'm not interested in meeting her. You will meet her tonight at dinner. We have reservations at Jin's restaurant. I'm not going. Yes, you are, Mrs. Park's voice rose. You are my son. You will do your duty to this family. We did not raise you to throw away your culture for some African woman. The words hit Serafina like a slap. Dae-jin's hand found hers and squeezed tight. Serafina is not some woman. She's the woman I love. The woman I plan to spend my life with. He looked his mother straight in the eye. I'm not meeting Sun-hee Kim or any other woman you bring here. I've made my choice. His father finally spoke. Then you choose to bring shame on this family. Shame on your ancestors. Shame on everything we built. I choose happiness over duty. Hyun-woo laughed coldly. Happiness? You sound like a teenager, little brother. Love doesn't last. Duty lasts. Family lasts. This woman will leave you eventually, and you'll have destroyed everything for nothing. Get out! Dae-jin's voice was deadly quiet. All of you, get out of my home. We will not leave until you see reason, Mrs. Park shouted. Security, Dae-jin called. 2 large men appeared immediately. Mrs. Park's face turned purple with rage as they escorted the family to the elevator. She shouted curses in Korean the entire way. The last thing Serafina heard was Mrs. Park promising that this wasn't over. The silence after they left was deafening. I'm sorry, Serafina whispered. I'm destroying your relationship with your family. You're not destroying anything. They are. He pulled her close. They'll calm down eventually. Once they see I'm serious, they'll have to accept it. But Serafina wasn't so sure. That night, they tried to forget about the drama by making dinner together. Dae-jin taught her how to make kimchi while she showed him how to make injera bread. They laughed and kissed and pretended everything was fine. They made love that night with desperate intensity, clinging to each other like they might disappear. Afterward, as they lay tangled in sweaty sheets, Dae-jin whispered promises in her ear. I will never leave you. Never. No matter what my family says or does. His hand traced patterns on her bare back. You're my future, Serafina. My forever. I'm scared, she admitted. Your mother looked at me like I was garbage. What if your whole family turns against you because of me? Then I'll build a new family. With you. She kissed him softly. I love you. I love you more. He rolled on top of her and proved it with his body. The next morning, Bae arrived at the penthouse looking grim. We have a problem, boss. What now? Your family met with the Lee family last night. They're planning something, an alliance or a takeover, I'm not sure which. But they're using your relationship with Serafina as evidence that you're not fit to lead. Daejin's jaw clenched. Let them try. I've spent 10 years building this organization. They can't just take it away. They can if enough people agree you're weak. If enough people think you're choosing a woman over business. Bae glanced at Serafina apologetically. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing on the streets. Then let me make it clear to everyone. I'm choosing Serafina over everything. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave. Boss, that's not smart. I don't care about smart anymore. I care about being happy. After Bae left, Serafina pulled Daejin aside. Maybe I should leave Chicago for a while. Let things calm down. Your business is important. No. His hands gripped her shoulders. Running away won't fix this. It'll just prove to everyone that they can control me by threatening you. So what do? We fight. Together. He kissed her forehead. I've decided something. I'm leaving the Mafia. Completely. I'm selling my share of the business to Hyunwoo and going legitimate. Serafina's eyes went wide. You can't do that. This is your whole life. No, you're my whole life now. This business is just what I do. I can do something else, something legal and safe. He cupped her face in his hands. I want to marry you, Serafina. I want to have babies with you and grow old with you and never worry about getting shot or arrested. I want a normal life. Tears filled her eyes. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They sealed the decision with a kiss that turned into more. They made love on the living room floor with the Chicago skyline as their witness, choosing each other over everything else in the world. But leaving the Mafia was never easy, and Daejin's enemies were already planning their final move. Daejin called a meeting with all the Korean gang leaders in Chicago. He stood in front of 20 dangerous men and announced his decision to leave the organization. The room exploded with angry voices. You can't just leave, someone shouted. You know our secrets, our operations. This is betrayal. Daejin raised his hand for silence. I'm offering to sell my territory and businesses to my brother Hyunwoo for a fair price. Everything I know stays secret. I just want out. The Lee family boss, an old man named Mr. Lee, stood up slowly. You want to leave because of a woman. This shows weakness. How do we know you won't talk to the police to protect her? Because I'm not a rat. I'm just a man who wants a different life. Unacceptable. Mr. Lee's voice was cold. You either stay in the family or you leave in a body bag. Those are the only two options. The room went silent. Daejin's hand moved toward the gun hidden under his jacket. Boy and his security team tensed, ready for violence. Are you threatening me, old man? Daejin asked softly. I'm stating facts. You know too much. You're too dangerous to let walk away. Then I guess we have a problem. What happened next was chaos. Mr. Lee's men pulled guns. Daejin's men pulled guns. For a moment, 20 weapons pointed at 20 heads in a deadly standoff. Everyone calm down, Hyunwoo said loudly. He walked to stand beside his younger brother. I'll take responsibility for Daejin. If he talks, you can kill us both. Is that acceptable? Mr. Lee considered this. Finally, he nodded. Fine, but this isn't over. And that woman of yours better be worth it, Daejin, because you just gave up everything for her. She is, Daejin said without hesitation. The meeting ended without bloodshed. But Daejin knew the danger wasn't over. Mr. Lee was old school and traditional. He would never accept someone just walking away from the organization. An attack was coming. It was just a question of when. Back at the penthouse, Daejin found Serafina packing a bag with shaking hands. What are you doing? He asked. Leaving. This is too dangerous. Your whole world is falling apart because of me. Stop! He took the bag from her hands and threw it across the room. You're not leaving. We're in this together, remember? People want to kill you because you love me. Then they'll have to kill me, because I'm not giving you up. He pulled her into his arms. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But running away won't save either of us. We have to face this together. She buried her face in his chest. I don't want you to die. I don't plan on dying. I plan on marrying you and living a long, boring, happy life. That night, Dae-jin increased security around the penthouse. Guards on every floor. Cameras on every entrance. He and Serafina stayed inside, making love and planning their future. He showed her pictures of restaurants he wanted to buy. She told him about opening an Ethiopian restaurant where her sisters could work when they came to America. They fell asleep, wrapped around each other, dreaming of peace. The attack came at 3 in the morning. Serafina woke to the sound of gunshots and breaking glass. Dae-jin threw her to the floor and covered her body with his. More gunshots. Men shouting, the security alarm screaming. "Stay down!" Dae-jin yelled. He grabbed his gun from the nightstand and returned fire through the broken window. Serafina could hear fighting in the hallway. Bae's voice shouting orders, more gunshots. This was really happening. Someone was trying to kill them. "We need to move!" Dae-jin pulled her up and dragged her toward the bathroom. It was the most secure room with no windows. He shoved her inside. "Stay here. Lock the door. Don't come out until I say so. Don't leave me. I have to help Bae. Lock the door, Serafina." She locked it with trembling hands and crouched in the bathtub, covering her ears. The gunshots continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. Then, silence. Terrible, heavy silence. "Serafina, it's me. Open the door." She recognized Dae-jin's voice and scrambled to unlock it. He stood there, covered in blood and breathing hard. His left arm hung limp at his side. "You're hurt." She pulled him into the bathroom and started examining him. "It's just a graze. I'm fine." But he was very much not fine. His face was pale, and he swayed on his feet. Serafina pressed a towel to his bleeding arm. "What happened?" "Mr. Lee sent his men. They're dead now. So are 3 of my guards." His voice was hollow. "This is my fault. All those men dead because I wanted to leave." "No, they're dead because Mr. Lee is a murderer." She wrapped his arm tightly. "We need to get you to a hospital." "Can't. Gunshot wounds mean police. Police mean questions." He leaned against the wall. "Bae knows a doctor who doesn't ask questions." The doctor came within an hour and patched Dae-jin up. The bullet had just grazed his arm, but he'd lost a lot of blood. The doctor gave him painkillers and instructions to rest. After everyone left, Serafina helped Dae-jin to bed. She curled up beside him carefully, trying not to hurt his injured arm. "This has to end," she whispered. "We can't live like this." "I know. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Mr. Lee one final time. Either he accepts that I'm out, or one of us dies trying." "Don't say that. It's the truth." He turned his head to look at her. Even pale and wounded, he was still the most handsome man she'd ever seen. "But I promise you this. Whatever happens tomorrow, I will come back to you. I will spend the rest of my life loving you. That's not a maybe. That's a guarantee." She kissed him softly, tasting tears on both their lips. "I love you so much. I love you more." He pulled her closer with his good arm. "Now sleep. Tomorrow we end this and start our real life." The next day, Dae-jin met with Mr. Lee in a neutral location with witnesses from other families. Hyun-woo stood beside him as backup. The negotiation was tense and dangerous, but finally, an agreement was reached. Dae-jin would pay a massive exit fee. He would sign documents swearing to never reveal organizational secrets. Hyun-woo would take over all his operations immediately. And most importantly, no one would touch Serafina. Any attack on her would be considered an attack on Hyun-woo and result in war. It cost Dae-jin almost everything he'd built, but he walked away alive and free. That was all that mattered. 6 months later, everything had changed. Dae-jin and Serafina moved to Nashville, Tennessee, far away from the Korean mafia in Chicago. He bought a small Korean restaurant that was struggling and turned it into the most popular spot in town. She worked beside him, managing the business and adding Ethiopian dishes to the menu that customers loved. They lived in a pretty house with a yard and neighbors who smiled and waved. Normal life. Safe life. Boring, beautiful, perfect life. One warm evening in September, Dae-jin closed the restaurant early. He cooked Serafina's favorite meal and set up candles all over their bedroom. Rose petals on the bed. Soft music playing. "What's all this?" she asked when she saw it. "This is me being romantic." He took her hand and led her to the bed. "Sit." She sat, and he knelt in front of her. Just like that first night in her tiny apartment when he cleaned her wounds. But this time he wasn't holding bandages. He was holding a small black box. "Serafina." His voice shook slightly. "You saved me, not just from the mafia, but from myself. You showed me that life could be about love instead of duty, happiness instead of violence. You gave me a reason to want tomorrow." Tears already streamed down her face. "I want to spend every tomorrow with you. I want to make you breakfast and argue about whose turn it is to do dishes. I want to make babies with you and teach them both Korean and Amharic. I want to grow old and gray with you and still make love like we're 20. He opened the box, revealing a simple gold ring with a single diamond. "Will you marry me?" "Yes!" She launched herself at him, and they tumbled onto the bed laughing and crying. "Yes, yes, yes!" He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her deeply. The kiss turned hungry and desperate. They made love right there on top of the rose petals, celebrating their engagement the best way they knew how. Afterward, as they lay tangled together and breathing hard, Dae-jin whispered against her neck, "Nanon yongwon hi dangsino sarangheo." What does that mean? "I will love you forever." She smiled and kissed him. "Ana ewede halehu." What's that? It means "I love you" in Amharic. They made love again, slowly this time, learning each other's bodies all over again like it was the first time. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss was a vow. 3 months later, they had a small wedding in their backyard. Serafina's 3 sisters flew in from Ethiopia and cried happy tears. Hyun-woo came from Chicago with Bae, representing the Park family since their parents refused to attend. A few friends from the restaurant. That was it. Small and perfect. Serafina wore a simple white dress. Dae-jin wore a suit that made him look like a normal businessman instead of a former mafia boss. They wrote their own vows, promising to love each other through everything life threw at them. Their wedding night was magical. Dae-jin carried her over the threshold of their bedroom and laid her on the bed covered in fresh flowers. He undressed her slowly, kissing every inch of skin he revealed. "My wife," he whispered in wonder. "You're my wife, and you're my husband." She pulled him down for a kiss. Forever. They made love as husband and wife for the first time, and it was somehow even more intense than before. Every touch meant more. Every whispered promise carried more weight. This wasn't just passion anymore. This was forever. Afterward, they lay wrapped around each other, touching the matching wedding rings on their fingers. "Are you happy?" Dae-jin asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible." She kissed his chest. "Are you?" "I didn't know happiness could feel like this." He tilted her chin up so he could see her eyes. "Thank you for saving me, Serafina. Thank you for seeing me, for choosing me. I will choose you every single day for the rest of my life." He kissed her forehead. "Saranghae, I love you too." They fell asleep in each other's arms, 2 people from completely different worlds who found their forever in each other. A Korean man who left behind violence and crime. An Ethiopian woman who left behind poverty and fear. Together they built something better than either could have imagined. Love didn't care about race or culture or backgrounds. Love just was. Pure and simple and strong enough to overcome anything. And they lived happily ever after. If you enjoyed this spicy romance between Serafina and Dae-jin, please subscribe to see more amazing love stories. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and which part of their journey was your favorite. Hit that like button if you believe true love can conquer everything.